Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Back in the studio here, myself, Dallas, and Michael. Michael, you had your seat being taken by Ali while we were recording just recently. He did a pretty good job, so he's put the pressure back on you to come up with some classic podcasting, mate. So your topic today.
Like I always say, it's been tiring for all these years. So I'm very welcoming of younger people coming up trying to knock me off my perch because
have a shot at the title, you reckon? Mate, so yeah, your topic today: be wary of living out of your home loan.
Yeah, so I thought this would be a good one to talk about today. Obviously, with interest rates where they are now. Interest bills on your home loan are going up.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make the listeners aware that a common strategy that's been bandied around in the past is fine in theory, but doesn't really work practically. And that strategy is the one where you actually have your wages paid onto your home loan, so straight into your home loan, and you then live off your credit card,
and then you clear your credit card,
every month.
Yeah.
So basically, if you can imagine, instead of your two incomes going into on a fortnightly basis, if you get paid fortnightly, instead of that going into a bank account and then a payment for your home loan coming out of that.
Yeah.
The strategy is that your two incomes get paid into your home loan, so they reduce the balance immediately. At the end of the month, the interest that you get charged on the home loan is added to the loan balance, and then in the background, your weekly or fortnightly or monthly living expenses are getting added to your credit card, and that gets cleared once a month. So the strategy that it's good in theory.
It's exactly there's a lot of these in what we see practically in financial planning, which is that there's this theory where you go, if you were a robot and you looked at this, you'd go, that actually makes sense because then you're getting your money straight off the account that you've got your interest. So you're not paying interest for 2 weeks on average, for example. So you're saving interest for 2 weeks.
The premise of the strategy is that exactly what you said, Dallas. So you as you're getting paid fortnightly for most people or weekly for some people, you're chipping away at the loan balance on your home loan, which means that rather than that money sitting in a bank account to have a once a month loan repayment, the interest is calculated daily on loan balances. So at the end of the month, you have a marginally lower interest deduction. And again, in theory,
that works.
It's a sound theory. Practically where we've found some people trip up on that is that, and these clients in particular, their home loan sat at $200,000 for 10 years. Now, part of that period of time was when they were clients of ours. Part of that period of time was before they were clients of ours. And we went back and had a look at it. What it was is that subconsciously, they were very happy with the $200,000 home loan because that was their level of comfort. Their house was worth circa $900,000 to $1 million. They had a $200,000 home loan. They'd gotten to the stage of where they were subconsciously happy with that balance. And rather than that $200,000 getting paid down to zero over the last 10 years of their working life,
it was sitting there.
It actually hovered at $200,000. So what was actually happening is that their wages were getting paid on a fortnightly basis straight onto the home loan. They were the interest was getting added, calculated daily, so it was getting theoretically a lower rate of interest.
But their expenses just were.
Their expenses were subconsciously. Their expenses were creeping up, and what was in fact happening is that the amount of income that they had coming in on a monthly basis was akin to exactly what they'd put on their credit card for their living expenses every month.
It's no surprise. It's amazing how the human brain is. It's fascinating how good it is at making all those little decisions day to day based on sort of something that's happening in your subconscious. So
that's
right.
They
would have been going each fortnight and going, can we spend that money? Like they wouldn't have been consciously going, oh yeah, we can spend that because our home loan's at 200 and you know it'll be down by this amount and then our bill will be that. It's just that your spending automatically adjusts in line with that.
Well, it ebbed and flowed too, the balance. So sometimes the home loan got out to $210,000,
and then they tightened,
and that was them tightening their belt after that. Yeah. So they tightened their belt, got it back to $200.
Yeah.
Other times it dropped to $190,000, which they went, we got a bit of breathing room here because they're now.
And this that anchoring of, we've said this in both with loans and we're just even with bank accounts. Everyone has I feel like people have a different set point of what they're comfortable with. And we've joked at this before where some people are really uncomfortable if they've got less than 50 grand in the bank, and some people are really uncomfortable if they've got less than 10 grand owing on their credit card. And so this is again the same thing with debt and you see it across all sorts of things, you know, with the home loan or with the credit card or with the bank account. It's like there's an anchor point in people's minds, and it's never conscious. Like they never actually come out and say, oh yeah, we're comfortable with 200 grand with home loan debt, but that's subconsciously why where their spending gets to, brings them back to that set point.
And Dallas, we're big believers in automation here, and just simple little things. So when they structured this home loan back in the day, and the gentleman was actually in the banking industry. I can only guess that someone in the bank that he worked for and structured the loan said, okay, why don't we set up a flexible line of credit style loan here?
Yeah.
Because if you pay your wages into the loan, the interest will be calculated daily.
And I know this, but he's a smart guy. He would have gone, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's in banking. He would have gone, that makes, it's a lower interest bill. It's got to be good. So.
Practically, what they would have been better off with is just a nice, simple, reducing principal and interest loan.
Yep.
Having their incomes paid into a standard bank account with the monthly loan repayment on a principal and interest basis come out of that bank account, because what would have happened then is they adjusted their spending to meet that principal and interest loan. And rather than being at retirement with still an outstanding $200,000 loan to clear, they would have been at retirement with a $0 balance loan to clear.
Yeah.
So we think that theoretically some of these things are sound, however, practically they just don't work as well as they should be. And if you're, I mean, this will probably resonate with some of the listeners out there that may be applying this strategy.
And it's interesting. I was just thinking as you're talking, mate, about like the alternative to that, which we were talking about. I think of this as like there's sort of three strategies of how you can meet your living expenses and pay off your loans. I would say practically the worst one is that, because there is just no sort of limit on your spend. It's very easy to spend in a month more than what you earn, which is which is dangerous. The second best strategy, or the one that a lot of other people do, which sometimes doesn't work for a similar sort of theory, is that they have their pay come in and then they go, right, we'll spend what we're going to spend, and then whatever's left over at the end of the month or at the end of the fortnight, we'll pay that off our home loan. And invariably what happens is, again, there's nothing left over. And so in that case, at least their loan doesn't go up, but it doesn't often go down by as much as it should, because they've still got the same thing where there's no day-to-day or fortnight-to-fortnight. There's no limiting factor on that spending. You just go, right, well, there's... Yeah. And we'll talk to people where what they're earning each fortnight and what they want to spend are vastly different. You know, they might say we've got to spare $3,000 a fortnight that we want to pay off the home loan. But if you just leave that sitting in your bank account, it's very easy to spend it because there's no limit on that. So what we sort of propose, and I'm probably stealing your thunder a bit here, mate, but what we tend to work on is, and you would have heard us talk about this in many, many, many other podcasts when it comes to loan repayments or super contributions or anything like that, is it's an old trite saying, but pay yourself first. So if you've worked out that, you're earning $6,000 a fortnight and you want to be spending 4 of that and the other 2 you want to be going off your home loan, the way to do it isn't to wait until the end of the fortnight and then try and find 2. The way to do it is to, the day after you get paid, transfer that $2,000 straight off your home loan, and then you will automatically adjust your spending to fit in under that remaining cash.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it. I do have another podcast actually.
Oh, do you?
And now at this stage, so this is going to be a future podcast. So if you're listening, when you're listening to this, listen out for this. If you're interested in our suggested way, there's a podcast that we are now naming "With Structure Comes Freedom." Now, just so you're aware, that
we are doing this. I've never heard of this. I like it. Though. I do like it.
We name these podcasts, and then sometimes they get changed on us. So we're not the
ultimate arbiter.
We think this is a great name for this podcast, and we'll decide on a name, and then the marketing people that we work with change the name on us sometimes. So
sometimes
you'll know it because we'll be talking a lot about how to structure a exactly like what you said, Dallas, a fortnightly budget of paying yourself first. We'll refer back when we do that podcast. We'll refer back to this this podcast as well.
No, and that's a good, like you say. There's all sorts of other things that need to be added into that structure. But the premise, I think, is that you're talking about here is it's a globally there's a heap of different strategies like this that are like good in theory, but practically that are not good. And I always think the test for this with people is, these guys probably would have been a good example where people will come in and go, this is how we manage our cash flow. This is how we pay off our home loan. And you go, okay, well, how's that working for you? And you go, if you had a home loan of, 150 grand 5 years ago, and now your home loan's still at 150 grand, and you want to be paying that off, the current structure's not working, and that's what we see all the time with this style of thing. Is that it's not about saying you magically need to have all of your home loan paid off by the time you retire. It's more just about lining up with what do you want to happen with your spending with your home loan, and how do you just make that happen so that it's not a thing where you get to the end of the year or 2 years or 3 years and go, oh, well, we've sort of been hovering around the same figure. So, but I look forward to that future podcast. With structure comes freedom, mate. I think that sounds it's very Navy SEAL sort of motto, but I think there'll be a lot to add in that one.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. For more information and resources, visit the Money Over 50 website, mo50.com.au. We look forward to catching up again soon.